It's been said that luck is the intersection of preparation and opportunity. Welcome to the Australian Hunting Backcountry podcast, where we will focus on all things hunting in the backcountry, not just in Australia, but everywhere that backcountry hunting is possible. My name is Tobias, and if you're a hunter with no backpacking experience, or even an expert, I would like you to join me as we explore gear, places, and technologies, hear lived experiences, different perspectives, and share the passion that people have for a hard-earned backpack hunt. I appreciate you being here with me as I try to increase the knowledge that will bring us better luck in the backcountry. The Australian Hunting Backcountry podcast is proud to welcome two new partnerships for 2024. Skeleton Optics Australia and On Track Meals are now both sponsors of the show. Skeleton Optics Australia is a family-run Australian-based business offering premium high-performance and durable sunglasses for active outdoor users. Skeleton Optics sunglasses use polarized Zeiss lenses and feature frames designed with lightweight and impact-resistant materials that provide a secure and comfortable fit. I personally now use Skeleton Optics sunglasses and would encourage you to reach out to Chris and Daniela if you would like further information on what glasses might suit you best. On Track Meals are made in Brisbane and is a 100% Australian and veteran-owned business. On Track Meals pride themselves on producing high-quality, shelf-stable, healthy, real food designed to be taken with you on your next adventure. Because the meals are not dehydrated or freeze-dried, they have retained all the flavour, don't require any water to be added, simply heat and eat, or they can even be eaten cold. They have a broad selection of meals with many more being planned and cater for some allergies and diet options. The coconut ginger chicken is now my new favourite, and On Track Meals will be accompanying me on many future adventures. Start that one. Yeah, it's always good to make sure you got a backup because I have previously forgotten to push the record button on the podcast gear and had to make the embarrassing admission and get the bloke to redo it. Yeah. All right, mate. All right. Well, welcome to Australian Hunting Backcountry. I'd like to welcome Glen from Mental Hunts to this episode. So, Glen, welcome. Thanks for making the time.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, Glen, you're based over in my new favourite part of the world, New Zealand and the South Island there. I just came back from a trip in early May. Fallen in love with the place, so already planning my next trip back and seeing how many times I can get over there again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is a really good spot. I fell in love with it myself 20 years ago, and now I live here.
Yeah. So you were born in Australia or you just grew up in Australia?
No, I was originally born in Sydney, moved to Adelaide when I was about 13, and like I say, moved over here about 20 years ago when my daughter was 6 months old, my eldest.
Yeah.
So yeah, been living in Wanaka now just under 20 years.
Yeah. Wow. Yep. Great. Yeah, no, I may end up doing something similar myself in the future.
Yeah, there's a few of us.
So, ironically, I guess, or fortuitously, we're doing this recording just after June, which was recognised as having Men's Mental Health Month, and one of the things we're going to be discussing is significantly around mental health, particularly firearm owners and mental health. So, it's good timing for us to get together. Now, what you're doing with Mental Hunts has only just sort of recently kicked off. I see you've had a couple of YouTube videos and a very successful hunt with a young lady chasing a red stag.
Yeah, like you say, it is really early. It's gathering a lot of momentum at the moment. It's a topic that's close to a lot of people's hearts. As you and I know, there's many people. Anyone that says they haven't struggled with any sort of mental health issue, I find is just lying. It comes in many shapes and forms, some worse, some than others. But so within the last 6 months, it's gone from 0 to where it's at now. And it's got a long way to go. We want to get more scope, get more audience, to get these messages out. But yeah, like you say, within the firearms community, rural community especially, it's we here in New Zealand have had this massive barrier creep up since the Christchurch massacre, and it all comes down to, if you go seek help, you potentially could lose your firearms, and instantly that makes every firearms license holder go, whoa, I'm not going to the doctor. So now all of a sudden these people that are, finally probably thinking to go get help have just pulled the pen and they won't get help. And that's quite a volatile situation, if you ask me.
So if we can go back to your story, take us through your sort of experience and what led you to mental hunts.
Yeah, righto. So if we go way, way, way back, when I was actually still living in Adelaide and I was around 18, I think that was when I first realised I had an issue with depression, as I ended up in hospital after an attempt on my life. I'm very fortunate to still be here, and I'm glad I am. It was a very drunken night, and alcohol was a big crutch for me from then and thereafter. So I guess from then I got on with my life and drank and partied and did drugs and met my wife and had a great time. And we, 20 years married now, and she's the best support network I've ever had. But then about 7.5 years ago, 2016, I hit rock bottom again. It caught up with me. It doesn't go away if you don't do anything about it. Yep. And I hadn't done anything about it except get drunk, thinking it was fixing everything. And I finally decided to get to the doctor before something stupid happened, and I got the help I needed. It was amazing. I got referred to a government organisation, Brief Intervention, and I got on medication for the first time in my life, which I was hesitant to do because I thought I knew everything. Here I am drinking everything. I know more than the doctors. Mm-hmm. But I decided it was a lose-lose situation, whether it worked or it didn't. And very fortunately it did. And I've got a lot to be said for the medication I'm on now, and I'm so glad to be on it. And I got on with my life, and life was awesome. Give it 3 years after that, I started feeling like I didn't need the medication because I stopped drinking at the same time. And I thought, well, maybe I don't need this medication. Mm-hmm. I went back to the doctor and had a chat to her and said how I was feeling. And she said, well, let's have a crack. The only way we're going to find out is to go off it. So we worked on the slow process of getting off the medication. And I think it was about 3 months after I finally got off the medication, after weaning off it bit by bit, and slowly but surely, life got dark again. The black dog started biting, and everything got distorted. I wasn't happy again, and I could just feel things going. I was having bad thoughts again, just for no reason at all, feeling worthlessness and the usual shit. And I thought, no, this is not right. I got to get back to the doctor. So I spoke to my wife, and I went back to the doc, and I said, told her what was going on, and she said, cool, well, let's just get back on the medication, and I'll refer you to mental health services if you like, and just to give you someone to talk to, get you through this little hiccup in the road. Okay. And I thought, yeah, sweet, no worries. So I did that, and first session with the nurse, the mental health services nurse. So bear in mind, this is 2019. After 2019, March 2019 was the Christchurch massacre. Mm-hmm. And it triggered a whole lot of change in the legislation, which me and many, many, many other people didn't know about. But I went to this nurse, and he asked me a few questions. Within about 10 minutes, he's asking me if I was suicidal, and I said, well, yeah, these are the thoughts that happen when I'm feeling like this. This is why I don't want to have them anymore. This is why I want back on the medication. I just want to get back where I was. And the next question was, do you own a firearms? And I was like, well, hang on, that's got nothing to do with it. I'm not going to go do anything with my firearms. This is not what I'm here for. Anyway, he sort of informed me that by law now he has to ask the question and act on it accordingly and have my license revoked. And he said, and with that I was pissed. I was like, no way. Like it basically turned the whole meeting, the whole session into me arguing about that point rather than actually getting the support I needed. Yeah. And with that, I pretty much ended the whole session myself and said, bugger this, I'm going down to the police station myself to tell them they're not touching my guns. I thought I was big tough. Anyway, I went down there, he followed me out, and he ended the session, wrapped up his computer and met me down at the police station. By the time I'd left there, the police were going to come out my house right there and then. And I said, well, I've got things to do in town. Like, you can't go out there without me. You can't get into my safe. So they waited for me on the side of the road. And when I passed, they followed me home in front of my family, my 3 kids, took my guns, took all my ammunition, everything in my safe that was related to my firearms, with a notice of potential revocation, which that also got served a bit later on. So they drove back with their police car in front of my house and made me feel like crap again. And then I went through that process, and finally, after all that, the police that I dealt with in Queenstown, he said I had all the clearances from psychologists, all the clearances from the doctors and everything, and I thought, no, this is going to be sweet. He decided, no, I'm going to override all that and not let you have it, just based on a 15-minute sit down with him. And I was angry. I was upset. I was probably went downhill even further than where I was when I went into the doctor. So that right there was a turning point in my head, because it took about a week for me to swallow what had just happened and then realize that this is way bigger than just me losing my firearms. And once this got out to the general population, this was going to be very volatile in the mental health space, as far as, like I say, I was farming at the time, and the farming industry has a massive suicide rate. So if all the people I was working with and everyone started finding out, and they started telling people that pretty much the whole farming industry in New Zealand will not go get help because they need their firearms. It's like I do for building a house with a hammer. I need a hammer. Take that away from me, it's really hard to do my job. Same. And it did make life really hard for me to do my job when I was there. It got really hard, really difficult, really embarrassing. It was horrible. And so from that moment forward, I basically said to my wife, I'm going to get my guns back. That's priority. And then once I get them back, I'm going on a mission to find out what the hell's going on here. I don't know what I'm going to do about it, but I'm going to start making phone calls, and I'm going straight to the top. And so that's pretty much what I've done. And it's just gathered more and more momentum over time. And I've been quietly working in the background before I've gone loud about it, just because, got to be a bit tactful. It is a delicate situation, and if I'd done it wrong, I mean, I could have quite easily started a Facebook hate group about the government and taking guns, but this needs to be done right, and it needs to be done diplomatically, and it needs proper change, not just keyboard warriors yelling and screaming at each other. We need to actually do something and act on this and do something about it. So so I've done a few other little mental health campaigns in the meantime, just building momentum, and then this has always been in the background ticking away. And just of recent days, the last 6 months or so, and even more the last 4 months, we've pushed it really hard. And we're just in the process of setting it up as a charity, non-for-profit charity status. Slowly working on some sort of training programs for people to get educated around this. I'm doing a lot of talks. I'm heading up to Auckland for the NZDA, so we're off to the Seeker Show in November as well. They've kindly given us a booth, and very fortunate that they're going to be fundraising the whole event for us. So it's putting us in good position to really make some positive change, and hopefully change the narrative amongst firearms holders about opening up conversations with their buddies out in the hills, and stop being this staunch, tough, macho crowd that we think we are. Everyone has shit. You just sometimes got to talk about it. And we're hoping with this it does do that. We're hoping to get a few higher profile influencers on to talk about their journeys. There's a lot of people that have different stories. So it's about changing the whole community's outlook on mental health. And if we can support each other, we may just not need to go to the doctor if we get in early enough and start talking early enough. A lot of people just end up going to the doctor because they don't talk, and and that was what happened to me. It actually took probably 10 years for it to, well, even 20 years, from 18 to, I was 38 at the time, so it was 20 years it manifested in me not dealing with it properly. and finally cracking, and luckily enough made the decision to go to the doctor, because it could have gone one or two ways.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad of the decision I've made, and I'm living proof that you can get through it. I mean, I was at the end of the road twice in my life, and I've gotten through it. And I had an addiction problem of drinking, and I've gotten off that. Anyone can get through it if you want to get through it, but I really wish I started talking earlier in life, and started a journey of self-care that I never did in my life. So my outlook on my own personal life now as to how it was 20 years ago is completely different. You wouldn't have reckoned 20 years ago, my attitude. So yeah, if we can encourage people within these firearms communities to start talking, know how to help their friends. If they're having a hard time, talk it out. And if it's really bad, just openly suggest, mate, how about you just put your firearms at my house? And if they do that, and they put their firearm, and this is recommendations from the Firearm Safety Authority, it's not on their website, but this is legit. Put your firearms at my house. Let me drop you off. Let me make your appointment. Let's go to the doc. Forget about your firearms. The most important thing is you. That's the priority, and that should be in people's mind. Yeah. That straight away puts you in good stead with the Firearm Safety Authority if you do get notified. Straight away they're going to say, well, you've made all the right decisions. You don't have access to your firearms. You are that, as far as any human being is aware, that makes you a fit, proper person to own a firearms. Yeah. And that's the protocol. You need to be a fit and proper person to own a firearm. As I said to you earlier, we are by no means trying to say that everyone that owns a firearms should, regardless of their mental state, own a firearm. Like, if you are in a bad state, we need to take your firearms off you. But the majority of people, there's a very small percentage of people that really do need to have it taken from them. The Christchurch massacre that has triggered all this stuff, unfortunately, we as firearms license holders over here are copping the brunt of it and being treated like criminals, when in actual fact what had happened was a cocker on the police's behalf when they vetted I don't want to mention his name because he's a dickhead, that did the massacre. So that was a government stuff up, not a firearms license holder stuff up. We as license holders abide by all our regulations, our rules, how to travel in the vehicle with it, how to lock your safe. Everything's under lock cabinet. It's the funny thing is that the data shows that ever since over here they brought in the lock cabinet legislation, that you had to have a lock cabinet and you had to have your bolts separate from your firearms and your ammo separate from your firearms, or a trigger lock or anything like that. Suicide by firearms actually decreased just from that, and it is actually to this day still decreasing. Very minimal, but it is decreasing. So suicide by firearms is actually not increasing by any means at all, and they reckon it's because it's been a bit harder for people. That it's not just under their bed, it's not just
doesn't have immediate access to it.
And I think I mentioned it to you earlier, I haven't mentioned it here, but the suicide by hanging is 60% of suicides. Suicide by firearms and explosives is only 10%. And bear in mind, it's still decreasing. So to bring this legislation in and force firearms license holders to be scared to go get help in fear of losing their license, I think is a very volatile, scary situation for the country if all of a sudden 240,000 firearm license holders aren't going to seek help, but they're still going to have their firearms. So what's better? You tell me.
Exactly.
It's about trying to change all this as much as we can. It's never going to be 100%, but I think they've lost the trust of firearms license holders, and it's going to be really hard to turn it around. But like I say, if we can change the narrative, if we can change the way people talk with their mates, if we can open up those questions, create a space through our mental health page and our website, and create a database of practitioners that are firearm sensitive that they can feel comfortable to go to, that aren't targeting firearms license holders, because there are some that just are anti-guns, and there's some that actually own firearms licenses and understand the legislation. So the more we get of those, the more we will add them to our database on the website to give people opportunities to get help. And a lot of these psychologists work through Zoom and meetings now, and
Yep.
do a lot of their consults via internet. So, internationally, it could work well for anyone.
Yeah.
If someone's in a position of dire straits and they know they need their firearms for work, for farming, for pest control, or hunting, guiding, or whatever you do, or if it's just your hobby and your sport and the one thing that gives you joy, we're slowly trying to build a database. And it's very early days. We launched the website last night, so it's actually only just hit the ground.
Yep.
And we are reaching out to health practitioners to contact us if we've got a bit of a protocol. We'll ask them, and if they want to be on the website. And we really want to create a database throughout the country, region by region, that people have somewhere to go, that the people they're going to understand the rules, know the legislation, know how to help these people without targeting that one thing that the person needs for their livelihood, or for their joy and happiness of getting out in nature.
Yeah.
Which we know is scientifically proven to be the biggest benefit of all. It's easy for people to say, "Oh, why don't you just get into bow hunting? Why don't you just get into photography?" But it just ain't the same.
Yeah.
You can't feed the family with a photo.
Yeah.
Archery is good, and I'm all for it, and it's something that I did ponder on, but it's a financial thing. All of a sudden you've got thousands of dollars worth of guns and can't even get them, access them to sell them. And it's yes and no, but there are positives that can come of it. But hindsight's a beautiful thing. But when you're in that position, it's a dark place to be, and to be treated like a criminal, you really genuinely are treated like a criminal in that position. We were. Things are changing a little bit, so we are making some small progress, but it's progress. And the more of us that speak up and the more of us that tell our stories, the more they're going to see and realize that there is a massive problem, and it's going to become even bigger undealt. Yeah,
and like we were saying before, it's not a firearm problem, it's a mental health problem. And firearms, we have to recognise that firearms are a means that are being used in suicides and other violent crimes and that sort of thing. And I couldn't quote you the statistics of Australia off the top of my head. I know there's a lot of parallels between New Zealand and Australia, so we're probably around the same sort of ratio in terms of where firearms are used. One of the unfortunate factors about using a firearm in suicide is that it is so final. So, like you've said yourself, where people make attempts at their own life, a lot of the time they're unsuccessful. Majority of the time they're unsuccessful. So they are able to then recover, seek help, treatment, and move on and continue with their life. Firearms, are a very final means for somebody to use. So I can understand the concern that society and the government has around people with mental health conditions having access to firearms. But the big point that you're trying to get across is that if people have that knowledge that having a firearm is going to result in them being treated like a criminal, and I would even suggest that they would have less rights than a criminal has, because police can't enter your home without a warrant if they're investigating a criminal offence under most circumstances. But they don't need a warrant to come in and seize your firearms.
That's right.
They come up
unless you're a gang.
Yeah.
Then they can.
Yeah.
And then they need a warrant. But if you're an average Joe with the firearms, they have a right to enter your property.
Yeah. So they can show up and hand you a notice to say that we're revoking your firearms or temporarily suspending your firearms license, without any evidence or without a hearing or anything like that. It's just because somebody has said you're at risk or that sort of thing, and then the onus of proof is on you. Whereas criminal matters, the onus of proof is on the Crown to prove the case. Yeah. So it's a significant barrier for people to take that first step and get that help.
there is an option for us here to fight it in court, but who's got the money?
Yeah.
I do know of a hunting guide, a friend who went through this process, same similar but very different to me, very inconsistent with what happened to me as to what happened with him as well. This was early days of before the Firearm Safety Authority, and he did take it to court because he needed his gun to do his job. He's a hunting guide. 6 months of the year he's out guiding, if not here overseas, for the rest of the year, and that cost him in excess of $15,000.
Yeah.
Well, I know I don't have that. So any thought of me ever wanting to fight it, which I'd probably win because it was a completely flawed situation as to why they were taking it. But if it's going to cost me 15 grand to do, I'd literally just renewed my license as it was, been through the whole vetting process. It was about 3 months earlier, and then they took my license off me. And I didn't get reimbursed any. I mean, that for me, that was a burden of finances as it was, without having to pay 15 grand to get a lawyer.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's right. And trying to do it yourself, and navigate the legal system and so forth, and legislation, understand the legislation. It's beyond most average people. So,
and I guess now is a good time to sort of point out to the listeners that at the time it happened to me, it was ran by the police. This legislation changed and it was thrown on the police to deal with all this. So region by region, district by district, it was dealt with pretty much differently by whoever the hell was dealing with it and felt like dealing with it, whatever way they felt. We are now under the Firearm Safety Authority, which has been set up, I think it was around 2020, probably. It was starting to roll over and then they fully set up. And I was, after millions of phone calls previously, I finally got onto a lady there, and I've been working very closely with her in this, in creating as much change as we can, working on the website, trying to make it more simplified, because you had to be a rocket scientist to figure out their website previously. Things like the mental health thing, all the legislation on mental health came under a graduated response. I mean, who knows to look for that? So it has been simplified so people can find it exactly. There is a mental health tab now, and little things like that we've changed. I've thrown a bit of advice out, and then also now we do have a surrender option, which was never available back when this happened to me. So, like I say, there are little changes. I won't go into the details of what they are, but they are changes and they are positive, and you can still shoot a firearms with a surrender option. You just can't, you've self-surrendered it to get help, and then, which is a priority, I'm so glad I did get help. Hindsight's a beautiful thing. We all say, oh, I need my firearms to go hunting, but I am the first one to say the same thing, but I'm also the first one to say, how's your hunting going when you're feeling like that? It's shit. You're not enjoying yourself. So surrender your guns for your own sake. Go get help. Get your guns back. Life's awesome. Because I know when I was going out hunting, saying I'm going hunting because I enjoy it, I was just taking bottles of piss with me to get drunk and sleep in a hut and wake up late and walk home. Hunting never happened because I was too busy manifesting my problems and trying to run away from everything. So, the big question is, are you really enjoying your hunting like you think you are? But it's different if you need it for a job. If you're a farmer, totally. I get it. But like you just said before, it's really important that there is some sort of legislation, because, like I say, it's a delicate situation. You can't just say, oh, anyone can have a firearms. It doesn't matter if you've got a mental health issue. But the mental health issues, and I say issues because it's so broad, and the spectrum of issues are huge, like from manic to psychotic to just a minor depressive to ADHD, PTSD, and so many. I mean, eating disorders, anxiety, like where are we going with it? So they all come under mental health. So so it's a really big situation for health practitioners to make those decisions, and it's really hard for them. But unfortunately, some of them are just being very risk adverse and just notifying unnecessarily. The Firearm Safety Authority are taking it a lot more case by case, which is a way better scenario than what it was back in 2019, early 20s. So yeah, I do feel there's positive change, but by no means are we anywhere where we need to be. And
Yeah.
I don't know whether it'll ever be perfect. It's just one of those battles that are always going to be there. But hopefully, with our website and with our conversations we're creating and the topics we're stirring up, it's getting people talking and hopefully getting people to the help that they need through hopefully our database, which will grow of resources for people.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, and look, mental health, peaks and troughs for everyone. So, as you say, there are probably a small percentage out there that we could quite confidently state they do not need to have firearms. They should not have firearms because of
Yeah.
it may be a mental illness. It may be an actual disability,
Yep.
and they're just not competent to have firearms. But then there are those people that go in and out of crisis. You have a relationship breakup. You have your business fails. Those sorts of
Yeah.
things. They're all mental health crises. And yes, you may fall into a period of depression as a result. But the important thing is for a firearm owner, like you've highlighted already, is that if that instead of if going and getting help early was not, having a firearm was not a barrier to that. If people weren't scared of losing their firearms as soon as they went and asked for help, then maybe there would be more of that happening sooner, and it wouldn't get to the point where people were in a mental health crisis, in the really low, dark places like you described, because that help, that early intervention had taken place beforehand, and then having a firearm would never be a risk and would never be problematic.
No, exactly.
We spoke about this before, where they don't screen you at your driver's license for mental health, do they? When you go and renew your driver's license, they don't ask you, whether you're having a mental health crisis or anything like that. Buying rope, buying knives, like you pointed out, they lock up spray cans now so that people can't misuse it and so forth. But
anyone can get rope.
Yeah,
It's in our shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked about this earlier, but if somebody's really motivated to do it, then they're going to find a way. And I would quite confidently predict that if we had a magic wand and we could remove firearms from the community, or firearms completely, that you actually wouldn't see that much of a change in the suicide rate trend.
Yeah.
And there might be a small plateau because that means had been removed temporarily, but it would then increase. It would continue to increase on the trend that it was going, because people are still going to be motivated and find ways to do it.
Yeah. And I mean, like I say, getting help early is the key. And this is also something that the Firearm Safety Authority are pushing. But, get help early, or we might take your guns. It doesn't really work together. But in saying that, I totally agree. Get help early. And that's just a case of mates, friends, family, talking. And we don't advocate just for men. We're talking men and women. But women are so good at talking, hence probably the suicide rate is a lot lower. That's the talk. That's what they say.
Yeah.
And I tend to agree to it because, I've got 3 daughters and they know how to talk it out. And but if we can all start having that conversation, a few things are going to happen. Firstly, there's going to be less people going to seek help. Therefore, the wait list to get into these practitioners is going to go down.
Yep.
So the people that are really in dire straits and need to get in there will actually get in there and get the help they need. I've heard of many people that have not made it to counselling or to services because there was a wait list and ended up taking their lives. So if we can free up the system, we've got a shortage of counsellors, psychologists over here, and we've got wait lists a mile long. If we can shorten that wait list and get the people in that need it, and everyone else that's just having a hard time or it's very early days that could grow into something big, can deal with it with mates and friends and family, and it's only acute at that stage, then it's got to be a positive thing all around. Like, I mean, there's so many people. We've got so many people here raising money for free counselling. I mean, amazing. That's great. But I personally don't really agree with it because it's cliff edge stuff. We need to be raising money to fund education. We need to educate people on how to relate, how to respond, and how to look after each other, more so than here's some money for the ambulance at the cliff.
Yeah, that's
it's
right.
too late.
And not only that, but you've got to have, excuse me, you've got to have the counsellors there to be accessible. So you can have all this money to pay for people to go to counselling, but if you don't have the quantity of practitioners there to deal with the influx of people, then it's pointless. So like you say, if there are more people getting that help early so that it didn't become a crisis point, then that pool of counsellors and psychologists and so forth would be more accessible and more available, and those people that were in a crisis for whatever reason then access that sooner.
Exactly. I mean, everyone loves free shit. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
If it's free, you're going to do it, aren't you? So
it's
a
bit of a chicken and the egg sort of scenario.
And it's real easy for counsellors to say, yeah, I can get you some funding. It's just money in the bank from them. The only people winning are the counsellors, the psychologists. They've just got an endless stream of people coming in. Good on them. That's the career path they chose, and good luck to them. They've got to support families too. But is that really fixing the problem? We've been doing this for how many years, raising money for counselling, raising money for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It ain't working. Suicide rates are going up.
Yeah.
We need another method. And I honestly believe education's where it's at. There's little bits of things here and there, and they are around. But I think if we enforced it more into apprenticeships, and you're building apprenticeships, you're doing mental health, you've got to do a first aid, do a mental health, how to work. You're about to finish your apprenticeship and then be able to manage people. So you probably need to know how to manage people. You can become a boss, run your own company. And, same with the hospitality industry. It's high stress. There should be a mental health. I mean, they work with knives. Should we take all their knives off them? Where does it stop? But education is a big part of trying to fix this problem on my side. It's something that I'm really pushing to see change through the government, and stop funding all these services that we do not have. We do not have them. So you can put $24 million into Gumboot Friday where you like, but if we don't have the services, what's the point? All you're doing is creating a backlog of kids that probably just needed to talk to a friend. And then that 3 or 4 down the end of the line could actually get in and get the services that they needed. Yeah.
Welcome to this segment of Australian Hunting Backcountry, friends of the podcast. And leather is one of those things that seems to go well hand in hand with nice timber and firearms. So today I'm up the sunny coast of Queensland talking to Matt from RMK Leatherworks.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for making this happen and inviting me up here. You got this great little studio that we're taking advantage of.
It's nice to finally put it to use.
Had a bit of a look over some of the products you got downstairs, but you want to first of all sort of give us a bit of an introduction about yourself and how RMK all came to be.
Okay, so this is my 7th year full-time now, as full-time on the tools. The business started back in Childers,
right?
In Queensland, about 2 hours north of here.
Yep.
I had been dabbling in leathercraft as a bit of a side hustle sort of thing for a few years before that, but it wasn't until I relocated back from Perth to Queensland, which is when I took the plunge and on the tools full time. What got me into leathercraft, when I was living in WA, I went and visited my dad, and my dad's always done a bit of leathercraft here and there. He had a pretty serious bike accident, so he had a lot of time in hospital, so he started doing leathercraft to keep his hands busy.
Yep.
Back then I was really into hunting and shooting, and visiting my dad. I wanted to make an ammo pouch and a new belt for my personal hunting kit. And I love the fact that we could sit there for, you know, an afternoon and make things that would last a lifetime if you look after them.
Yep.
And then I became pretty just addicted and fell down a very deep hole that is leathercraft. And yeah, ended up developing a whole lot of products and really modernizing it compared to the sort of work that my dad's like old school, uses like a stitching oil, and whereas like I was interested in like the cleanest and neatest finish that I could possibly achieve. And then you know, then we got into like the sewing machines and all that sort of thing. But yeah, so that's where it all started. I spent 2 years there in Childers building up the business. They let me live there for free, which really helped. And then after those 2 years, we relocated back to the Sunshine Coast, so back to my hometown. And I lived on a property in Ninderry with a friend of mine named Luke, who's a knife maker. So we had a leather workshop and a blacksmith workshop in the same massive shed.
Yeah, good combination.
And stayed there for 3 years, continued to build things up, and we outgrew that space. And now here we are in the industrial area in Coolum Beach.
Yeah, great. So have you, to get into the leather work, did you do any formal training? Did you do any saddle making or anything like that, or just kind of...
No, I'm completely unqualified. Just self-taught, other than like the basics that my dad taught me, like how to saddle stitch and stuff like that, which is hand stitching. And then like basic sort of sheath design and stuff like that. And then from there, a lot of YouTube. And
you can learn to build a house on YouTube nowadays, so
and sort of just I had a few makers that really inspired me because they did beautiful work. Sheaths was where I started, like for fixed knives, fixed blade knives. So yeah, that's where I sort of started, which definitely isn't an easy place to start. Yeah, so no official training or anything like that, which they do offer. You can get an apprenticeship in leathercraft and all that sort of thing, and take on qualifications, but it's just something that I've never really needed to pursue. But like I still have so much to learn myself. Like I've never made anything with a zip. I've never made a bag. Like there's so many avenues to explore in leathercraft, and like I feel like we're only tapping into a little bit of it now, which is the stuff that I'm passionate about, which is like everyday carry leather goods, like the things that guys use every day, and carry solutions for tools that people carry, like Leathermans and stuff like that. The gun leather products sort of came much later. The first one that we ever really developed was the adjustable ammo pouch, which still is one of our best sellers today. So that's the one that has like a foam insert that slides into the pouch. And there's 3 different foam inserts for different size calibers, but they're really adaptable because of the adjustable snap that we use. So it gives you 1 inch of vertical adjustment. And then in combination with that foam insert, they become very versatile and can suit a whole variety of calibers instead of, you know, one size fits one caliber. I really try and make things as adaptable as possible.
And that's a really ingenious sort of design that I see you've included in that, because the fact is that, you know, most hunters probably own more than 2 rifles of different calibers. So the fact that they can go out for a weekend trip and take this rifle with them and then adjust it down to carry the ammo for that rifle, and then, you know, the next month they want to go on a different sort of hunt, they're taking a different sort of rifle. So
yeah, and the foam inserts are interchangeable as well. So I really tried to make that product as adaptable as possible. But back then I had never even attempted cartridge loops because I don't know, I wasn't that experienced, and learning the whole cartridge loops thing seemed very daunting to me. That's why I sort of developed the foam insert, because I was just taking a bit of a sidestep around that. But then I eventually taught myself on YouTube how to do cartridge loops, and now it's one of my favorite things to do.
Yep.
I really enjoy the sewing side of things.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd be a bloke that's into sewing machines, but here I am.
I have a bit of a, you could accuse me of having an unhealthy passion for knives.
Mm-hmm.
I just, they're just one of the things that I like collecting, nice, well-made knives, particularly fixed blade. So every time I'd get a knife, then I'd go searching for a sheath for it and come up with a different design, and then I'd have to find someone to make the sheath for me and so forth. So over the years, I've sort of approached a lot of saddle makers and so forth, usually in small country towns or that sort of thing, and talked them into making me a one-off sort of design. And because I had something interesting and something different, they were usually interested in doing it, rather than just providing a sort of run-of-the-mill.
Yeah, well, usually when people come to you and they want a custom sheath, they don't really come to you with a design. So that's interesting. But yeah, I totally get the healthy obsession around knives. It was actually where I sort of got started with like being creative. My dad was actually ordering in like knife blanks. And then he would just put like the handles on it. I was like, oh, this is cool. And I enjoyed the woodwork at the time. So I started doing that as well. And then, once you finish the knife, you need a sheath.
Yeah.
So, and I started making the sheath, but then I started to enjoy the leathercraft more because I was doing the whole thing from start to finish. I'd never been much of a metal worker, so knife making for me wasn't really an interest. But yeah, everyone, I feel like all guys like have this like natural attraction to knives.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of where it all started. And yeah, we still make the fixed blade knife sheaths today, and all sorts of holsters and stuff for folding knives and whatnot. Yeah, it definitely keeps us busy.
Yeah. So there's yourself, and are you 2 staff or 3 staff downstairs?
3 staff at the moment. So there's me, my brother, who's actually off injured. He's got carpal tunnel in both his wrists. Poor guy, he's been off for, must be coming on 7 months now. I think he's going to need surgery. It's been a bit of a rough trot for him, unfortunately. But since he's been gone, it's sort of forced me back into his role and looking after the products that he looks after. And so I've engineered a lot of the steps out to make it less labor intensive. Because once you develop a product, you get all the tooling to streamline it so you can produce it profitably. And then I hand it over to a staff member and go focus on other things.
Yep.
You don't really think about that process again until you're sort of forced back into actually producing them.
Yeah.
So much has changed since he's been gone. I really look forward to him coming back, that's for sure. But other than that, it was just my sister down there who she looks after the wallets and a lot of the pouches and holsters as well. But since Jay's been off, she's really sort of stepped up into his role. She's doing all the belts and stuff now as well. So she's really passionate. She loves it. Yeah.
So give us a rundown then of your range. What are the sort of things, firearm related and non-firearm related, that you're producing?
Okay, so we do belts, wallets, pouches, holsters, gun leather, and then knife sheaths, and then we do a whole of other little small bits and pieces like patches. I love patches, like the Velcro back kind you put on your pack.
Yep.
That originally started as we were just using scrap, but they sell well and I really enjoy them. So now we just buy leather just to produce patches.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the dog tags as well. So that's what we make with our belting waste. So when you make a belt or cut it to size, you basically end up with like a foot or a foot and a half of premium, like offcut. Right. So instead of that like going to waste or whatever, we cut the dog tags out of it. and I think we've done like 33 or something breeds so far. So that was a really fun project.
Okay.
And we do a lot of business to business stuff as well. So promotional products, product labels. So say for example, like a canvas company or a swag making company, they need like a nice leather label to put on their products.
Yep.
And so we do a lot of that, which has been a very unexpected avenue for us to pursue. Like I said, there's so many avenues to pursue. Like if something dries up or isn't very successful, then we've got plenty of other options.
Yeah. Yep.
I prefer things that are smaller and that we can produce faster than things that, like bags and jackets and stuff. I feel like could be very time consuming.
Yeah.
I just try and design products that suit a variety of things in a particular niche. So say like our multi-tool holsters, for example, like there's 2 sizes to cover all the multi-tool models that are out there. There's a couple that don't fit.
Yep.
But yeah, instead of just designing one particular pouch to suit one particular product, we try and fit more in through the adjustable snap and just selecting the right materials, which is a big thing for us, and we take a lot of passion in the materials that we use.
Yeah. And have you looked in the like the archery field at all, branching into some of that stuff?
No, not yet. Definitely a common request to produce things for archery. Like I grew up shooting bows.
Yep.
But it's just something I haven't looked at yet. We have a very large and complicated product range that we're like aggressively trying to simplify at the moment. So we've just simplified our wallet range, which was way too big. I think we had something like 25 or something themed wallets, which is just the same wallet design with different stamps on it.
Okay. Yep.
And then so there was like I think 8 external wallet cover colors, and then like another 8 internal colors. So it's just way too many options. So we've really like squeezed that in now down to 3 external color cover options and 4 internal color options, just to make it easier for us to prepare, because we are currently running off a 2-person team.
Yep.
So yeah, just making things more simple is key at the moment. And not adding to the product range. Like we get requests all the time for custom products. Hey, can you do this? Can you do this? And we'll be like, yeah, we probably could, but we just really want to work on refining what's already working for us and improving our best sellers. So since the start of the year, the project has been refining our pancake style holsters, which they're the belt loop holsters that hold like a multi-tool, a flashlight and a pen.
Yep.
So redesigning all of them, making them faster to produce, to make them more profitable and stuff like that. So so the wallet project's complete now. We're hitting some unexpected delays with the pancake holster project, but that was all I had planned for the year.
Yep.
I spent a lot of time. Usually we get like our off-peak season is from January to about April, and that's the only time I really ever get to work on new products or refine things. This year it's been pushed way back because of staffing issues, but yeah, it's there's always so many avenues to pursue. But we have to be smart about what we're doing, and I just want to make what's already working for us better before we start pursuing different avenues, such as archery and more gun leather products, for example.
Fair enough. Yep. All right. So what's the best way for someone to get a look at what you've got and then ordering and so forth, or contacting you to discuss?
Well, most of our business is just online, so all the products are online with all the information and whatnot. We do a couple of expos a year. So we do the Brisbane Knife Show, we do the Sydney Knife Show, which is probably the biggest one. And this year is the first year back for the SSAA SHOT Show, so we'll be there as well.
Oh, okay. Down in Melbourne?
Yeah.
Right.
So we did that, I think, in 2019, just before COVID, and it hasn't ran since.
Yep.
So I think last time when we went, we only had the ammo pouches, and that was it. And now we've got a much larger range for the gun leather products. So yeah, I look forward to seeing how that goes.
Yeah. I'll be there as well, so I'll see you there. Yeah. I'm just visiting. I don't have a stand or anything, but.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It'll be a very scaled back sort of display compared to what we usually do for knife shows. Mm-hmm. We've got like a 3x3 area, and because we're flying down and not driving to this one, we're very limited in what we can actually take.
Yep.
So yeah, I'll be taking my sister down for that one. She's really excited. She's never been to Melbourne, so.
Yeah. Good stuff. All right. So website, and I see you're fairly active on socials as well.
Yeah. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. If just reach out, and if you got any questions, just message me there. Always happy to talk shop and whatnot. Just when it comes to custom stuff, I have to be very selective in what custom work I take on, because basically, if I say yes to customs, I'm working weekends.
Yeah.
So it's a hard thing, because I get asked every day to do custom work, and it's a hard thing to say no.
Yeah. And
it's something that takes a lot of practice, like to say no and not upset people, especially when they come in the shop. People come in like, oh, can you do this? Like, I'm sorry, but I just can't. Like, I need to focus on the business instead of making what other people want me to make. But yeah, I'm definitely always happy to talk shop, and sometimes people have some great ideas, things that I haven't even thought of. So yeah, so the website is our primary place to shop, and you can catch us at the Brisbane and Sydney knife shows and SSAA SHOT Show.
Yeah. All right, mate. Well, yeah, like I said, thanks again for having me here and making this happen. And I'll get some footage before I go to throw up on my social as well. And
no worries.
And I'll let you know when the episode's out.
I look forward to it.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
And I'll come back to something you just said before. You're exactly right. I don't want to focus on just men as being, the sole focus of what we're discussing and what you guys are doing. Absolutely. But it is an unfortunate fact that the statistics are that between age 15 and 44, the highest risk to a male in that age group is suicide. It's not that statistic for women. Yes, women, still too high suicide rates and so forth, but more men are likely to take their own life. So I don't want this to just be about men. I absolutely do want to include women in this as well. So when we're saying men, I guess we're still referring to people, but those are the statistics, and it's probably a very similar rate in New Zealand.
Totally. It is massive over here, and like you say, that's one thing we emphasise as well, and I always have. It's a person problem. It's not a man problem. It's a human problem, and everyone has a role to play with each other, one side or the other. It is male dominated in the suicide, but I get a lot of messages from females through our hunts and through my other campaign. And which is great. They talk, you see, they know how to open up. I do get a lot of men messaging me and asking for support and how to help get off the booze and what did I do and how did I do it. And, I always tell these people, I don't have the answer. This is what worked for me.
Yep.
But I do know how to sit and listen. I do know how to talk to them. The last thing you want to say to someone who's in a bad place is, oh, you'll be right. That's just life. I mean, shit like that just turns you deep into a darker hole. And I've had it thrown at me many times when I've, been pissed and trying to talk about it when I'm drunk, and, the wrong answers come at you, and then you just feel worse.
Yeah. And I really hate the term toxic masculinity, but if there was ever a sort of definition, I guess, that could personify that term, you and I look roughly the same sort of age group, so we would have grown up in the same, I guess, the same, raised the same way by fathers who were raised by their fathers and so forth, and that mindset of, boys don't cry, don't be a sook, don't be a girl, men don't show emotions, we've got to choke it down, and that sort of thing, and how that has sort of affected us, because of it, men came home from war and they used to call it shell shocked, but it was PTSD. And what did they do to treat it? Here's another beer, here's another rum, and then they would just sit there, and people often talked about, their father or grandfather pre-war and post-war, and being two completely different people. But
totally.
So it really is about us changing that whole mindset that, our generation was sort of brought up with, to be comfortable talking about these sort of things, and being uncomfortable with the conversation because it involves emotions, because, it's upsetting, because it's traumatic, or, it elicits an emotional response from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely changed, and it is getting better, but there's still, like I say, so much work to do. I see so many people put on their Facebook, my kettle's on and door's always open. It's like, well, fuck that. Ring your mate. Ask them how they're going.
Yeah, that's right.
I get sick of all that stuff. It's like genuinely actually message someone. It's hardly a week goes by that I don't just flick a message out to someone. And the reason I do that is because I had someone do it to me quite regularly. Just a random person that I did a mental health training 2-day course with. And just every now and again, I just get this random text. Hey, how you going? How's the family? Just want to see how you're feeling. How's life treating you? I hope you're okay. Shit, did it make me feel good. And 9 times out of 10, she'd send that message just when I was feeling like shit and starting to have a bit of a bad day. And it just puts such a joy in your step when you get those messages. And people don't realize the impact of little things like that. And if you get the response that you probably didn't want to hear, act on it. Go knock on the door, pick them up, and take them for a coffee.
Yeah, that's right.
Simple way.
When what somebody is saying is contradictory to what they're doing or how they're appearing, you need to scratch a little bit deeper and get past that initial reluctance. Because traditionally men are not open. They're not going to talk about emotions. And we don't recognise that we need the help. And then when we think that we do need help, we're reluctant to go and ask for help. So
exactly.
Getting past those.
And I was a prime example of that. And, I haven't mentioned it earlier, but I grew up with a father that he retired from Qantas after 27 years. We moved from Sydney to Adelaide, moved the whole state. And then he got severely depressed and spent a lot of time in bed. He was drinking and never saw him. But we were living in a time back then where we wouldn't talk about it. And if he was in bed, like he was upstairs, we'd tell, if friends come around, don't tell him dad's here, don't tell him dad's here. It was sort of an almost embarrassing thing. The poor guy had to live his life in silence because that was the way it was back then. So I feel privileged to live in the time that we do, where we can openly talk about it, and people are starting to listen, and things are getting better, and it is a topic of conversation. And you may have seen my post the other week. I'm not a huge fan of these Men's Health Month, and I know there's a big benefit to that, but people all get on the bandwagon and then they disappear. So all these people find this little bit of hope and then it all disappears. I'm a big believer of this has to happen all year round. This needs to be a conversation all the time. We need to work on this constantly, not just for Suicide Awareness Year and week and whatever it is. There's just so much of it, and it sort of goes nowhere.
I remember pointing that out to somebody when Are You OK Day started over here, and I there's not a criticism of the program at all. I take nothing away from it, but my question was, okay, you say to somebody, "Are you okay?" and then they say no. What's the next step? What do you then do? And it kind of didn't. It didn't arm you, I guess, to take that any further and so forth. They've done a bit better job now, but traditionally, then you would say to someone, it's Are You OK Day? So are you okay? And of course, what does everybody answer? Oh, yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not truthful at all.
No.
So you're right.
And then education. And if people had that education, if someone says no and they know exactly what to do, and it's not textbook. And once again, we talked on this earlier, but it's like the first aid. Have I mentioned that? No. You get your first aid certificate so that you can look after someone before you can, to get them to the professionals before they really hurt themselves or die. If they've fallen off something or they need a band-aid. Mental health's the same. You're not there to fix that person. You're just there to support them and get them to the support that they need, so they don't die. Same. So why are we not training it? Why are we not educating it? Why are industries not training it through their networks and support groups of, there's organisations all around the world that could be just integrating this into their staff training. Really easy fix, but once again, under no illusion that it's going to bring the suicide rate to zero, but it's going to save a lot of wait lists. It's going to help a lot of people, give people a lot of tools. Because if you're a person that doesn't struggle with mental health, doesn't mean you shouldn't do some sort of training, because you're a big asset to someone who is struggling. And knowing the signs to look for. And but I've done so many courses these days, it's not funny, but every single one of them, I come out with something new. And do I want to be a counsellor or a psychologist? Absolutely not. It's not in me. But I want to be there for my peers, my mates, my kids, my friends, my family, or anyone else who texts and messages me. I want to know what to be able to say to them and what to be able to do for them. And I've had people and friends that have taken their life, even while I'm working with them. Do I take it personally? No. They had made that decision. It sucks a lot. It's sad. Feel for them and their families, but you can only do so much for some people, but you can only try. But if you don't know, you can't do anything. And okay, I may have lost one or two friends, but how many others have I saved? Times that by how many people doing the same thing I'm doing. It's got to make a massive impact in the world.
And just because you're not in a mental health crisis now doesn't mean you won't be in the future. So arming yourself with that information, like you say, you do a first aid course, because one day you might have an accident and you're bleeding all over the place and need to know how to stop the bleeding so you can then, get to hospital and not die. Well, mental health first aid should be a similar sort of thing, have that information and that skill set so that you can recognise when you're not well in that area, and then, you can start that journey early rather than
And these courses that I have done and I continue to do, they're not medical, they are simplified for everyday people to help everyday people. You don't have to be a GP or have done your medical degree to know how to go and do these courses, just like you don't with your first aid. So, if ever the opportunity arises for people, I highly recommend doing something. And there are many online platforms that you can do them online. They'll facilitate them through Zoom. There's all sorts of different ones. I don't know what's in Aussie. I'd imagine there'd be lots. We've got quite a few here now that are popping up, which I'm pushing for the government to fund them so that these organisations aren't battling away, struggling to get funding to do these amazing things that they're doing. So,
Do you know Simon Sinek at all?
He's
on. He's a motivational speaker and a sort of wellness coach. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube about him.
Okay. No, I haven't heard of him, but
he. I remember watching one of the little TED Talks that he did, and coming back to what you were saying before about when that friend reached out to you, and always seemed to be at the right time. One of the talks that he delivers is about 8 minutes, how people only need 8 minutes of interaction with someone to drastically improve their mental health and their mood and that sort of thing, and how he had this friend who was going through particularly difficult times, and they would literally just communicate for 8 minutes, conversation, texting back and forth, that sort of thing, and it would be enough to get them out of that rut and elevate their mood and back on the right path. So, yeah, just coming back to what you're saying, when somebody reaches out and it just happens to be at that right time, you don't need to be a psychotherapist. All you need to do is dedicate 8 minutes of your time to them, to communicate and let them know that you're thinking about them, or let's I'll come over and I'll give you a hand, whatever it is, or I'll drive you to the hospital, or whatever that offer of assistance is. That can be the turning point that somebody needs.
Yeah, and it's so obvious when you start talking about it, though, isn't it? But everyone's so busy in their lives these days, they forget about it, and it's time people brought it back and the simple things, and start helping their mates more and just checking in on them, because I was a king of hiding it. Like when I finally opened up to people, they were like, "Oh my God, I thought you had everything." So I do, but I'm struggling to see it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You were saying about these courses and programs that you're sort of advocating for.
Yeah.
What sort of things would you recommend that people look at along those lines?
Well, I know for a fact that you guys in Aussie have Mates in Construction, because that's what I was a campaign that I did to promote them. And Mates in Construction is an organisation for the construction industry, which is very, very broad, just like mental health. So there's not many people that don't have some sort of sector in the construction industry of some kind.
Yep.
So they do some really amazing training. They got 3 tiers of training. They got a general awareness training, a connectors training, and then an assist training. So that the first one's like 45 minutes, the second one's a day, and then or 4 hours, and then the last one's 2 days. So it just depends on. And then these are things that organisations, companies are pushing their staff into, not pushing them, but signing them up for and getting them through the training courses, which is great. Once again, let's put Mates in Construction into the building apprenticeships. Job done, eh?
Yep.
Wouldn't that be a simple fact that the government could help support? So they're one. I don't know about many others over in Aussie, to be fair. Over here we've got one called Blueprint for Learning, which they do mental health 101, rural 101, addiction 101. So there's different factors that they discuss, but I've done the mental health 101. There's what else is there? There's good yarn training, which I'm not sure whether it's over there. Another thing that's only probably about a 3 to 4 hour training program. And once again, mental health 101s, I know they do on Zoom. They do internet training. So, I think you could even probably do that from over there. I can't see why not, but I'm speaking out of school there. But yeah, there's actually heaps. So there is mental health first aid that's starting off around locally here. I'm starting to see more of that training coming up. So yeah, there's many. I think St. John's do a little bit now, which is cool. There are major first aiders here, so first responders. Yeah, so it is getting more and more, and it's probably going to be needed, especially over here, for the fact that police are now saying, well, it's not their job. They can't go to every mental health crisis. So it's getting harder and harder. Like, the big thing is, if someone's in danger and risk of their life, or to themselves or others, ring 111 or 000 over there. And yeah, sure, do that, but it's getting harder, and they're screening those calls more and more, because I've even rung it for someone once before, and they said, well, what do you want us to do? It sounds like you're doing everything right. It's like, so yeah, it is getting more difficult. So I now, if I am in that position, I ring 111 and ask for ambulance. I don't ask for police anymore. But just for that fact, unless they're really in a state that I need police support. But very fortunate, I haven't had to do that very often. So but I wouldn't hesitate.
Was there a coronial inquiry over there just recently about a young man that committed suicide, and he'd actually rung a mental health care line, and they were really critical about the response?
I couldn't speak on that because I had no idea about it. I haven't heard anything about it, but very likely. But Yeah, there's a lot of talk in New Zealand about how bad the mental health system is here and everything like that. Sure, I'm sure it could be better. Me personally, it worked for me. So I got nothing bad to say myself about the system. But shit, yeah, any organisation, any hospital care, anything could be done better. You know, people that go to hospital have surgery and it's great, it's the best thing ever. And you hear people go get surgery and it's the biggest stuff up of their life. So, you know, it's very easy to speculate on things like that if you're not part of it. But yeah, I personally have had good situations, but I also know people that have had very, very bad stories to tell about the system. So, you know, it's unfortunate, but it's hit and miss. And could be more consistent for sure.
Yeah.
And as for what you're talking about, I have no idea. Without getting into that, I don't know.
I can't remember if it was. I had a funny feeling it was New Zealand, and it was. I mean, it's probably several years old now. But it was a bit of a catalyst then for some changes and extra training and so forth. I just thought that might have sort of been part of what you were basing it on as well. But
no, to be honest, I don't actually watch telly. I haven't had a TV for 10 years, and I just listen to the radio. So there's not on the radio. Watch a bit of YouTube, and that's about it.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. I've got a TV just so I can watch YouTube and the occasional movie. I don't turn the
sit
news
down and
on.
watch the TV news. Just brings you down, doesn't it?
So now one of the things that I think was one of the first sort of, for me, points of contact with you and what you're doing was the 53-day trek that you did at Lake Hawea. Yeah.
So that was the campaign I ran 21, 22. And Christmas, New Year, I climbed a mountain 53 times in 53 days, elevation of 1,700 meters. Now that was for 53 times represents the average suicide rate in the construction industry, and I wanted to highlight those numbers. This particular campaign wasn't about raising funds or anything. It was purely to create conversation and awareness around the situation in the South Island and encourage construction workers to get connected to the Mates in Construction training, which was huge. I asked trade companies to sponsor a day, and in doing that, it cost them nothing, just turn up with their staff. So such as, I think it was like Bagley Construction came up on day 13, people like that, and they brought 14 people up with them. They brought their contractors, sparkies, the other people came up on the same day. And this happened for 53 days. And it just opened up so many conversations. It was overwhelming for me how many conversations actually got started. And I knew it was going to, you know, I was hoping it was going to get a few people up there. But by the end of that 53 days, we had over 330 people climb that mountain with me. And there wasn't a person that didn't have some story or conversation about something. And I'd open up every day with the conversation at the start of the day, health and safety talk, and then why we're here. Let's talk. If anyone wants to talk, let's have it. And, you know, we're here to open up those conversations. It's personal. Keep it on the hill. Don't take it out and rattle off what you've heard about someone. And yeah, everyone just opened up, and it was amazing to see people do that. Some of them hadn't even opened up. Some of them, like I say on my film, some of them had come up because they'd lost loved ones. Some of them were struggling themselves. It was amazing to see, and it was pretty comforting for me because for all this time I felt like I was doing it alone. And people need to realize everyone's got a battle of some kind, and there wasn't any one story that was the same. Every situation is different and has its different effects to different people. So, you know, when people say mental health, what are they talking about? I really get pissed when I'm filling out an application for something and it asks, do you struggle with mental health? Do you have mental health issues? It's like, what's your question? What are you actually asking me? You know?
Today I don't, but tomorrow I may, you know, or yesterday I did. So
what are you looking for? If it's something really bad, or just, you know, because like I said to you earlier, there's not really many people that haven't struggled with mental health issues of some kind. Some are really, really small. Some are really, really bad. So what's the question? Where are you looking? I just find that question very discriminative. If they said, do you have any issues with being psychotic? Totally get it. It's a pretty direct question asking for a simple reason. But do you struggle with depression? Why do they need to know that? You know,
and as you said before, a lot of it is about risk mitigation, and they just want to be able to tick a box and or you know, be able to eliminate you or whatever as a risk or something. It's not a common sense approach to it.
Borderline discriminating, I feel.
Exactly.
From someone in that position, I just always look at it and go, I don't even know what to say here. It's just stupid.
So just to highlight the the film that you did, and it's on YouTube now. But you started on the first day. You started with I think there was 4 of you on the first day.
On the first day, no, we started with it was Dunlop Builders. I think there was about 12 or 14 of us on the first day.
Okay. Yep.
And every day was different. I had the odd day I had 1 or 2 days on my own.
Yeah.
But otherwise, every day there was between 5 to 15 people that came up, and then the last day was about 30. I think it was 32 or 36, something like that. Yeah. Top of my head.
It was pretty inspiring to see like the drone footage, you know, and there's this stream of people behind you as you're walking up this, and it was a mountain. It's a good walk too. So
it's not a walk in the park, and I did that on purpose. The mountain's called Turn the Corner. The mountain's called Corner Peak, which is why I called it Turn the Corner.
Yeah. Because
we all need to turn a corner in our attitude and the way we think about it. Also, waking up with depression every day for me was like having to scale a mountain every day. Yeah. Even just the simple task of getting to the supermarket was like having to climb a mountain sometimes. Yep. So I can put all the analogies out there. There's heaps of them, but they're the main reasons I did what I did. And also the fact that getting in nature and climbing peaks and going hunting is what I do to stimulate myself. That's my meditation. I can't meditate for shit, but getting out in the hills and exercising is what I do. It puts me in my zone and makes me happy, and I know it works for a lot of people. It's scientifically proven for fact.
Look, I 100% agree with you there. Like I told you about before, a previous career of mine was very emotionally taxing, and one of the things that I really found value in was getting out in the bush and going on backpack hunts. And a lot of the time it was by myself, and sometimes that was by choice, sometimes it was out of necessity, but being out in the bush, you know, hunting, getting away, you know, not having mobile phone reception, all of those sort of things. That week or 10 days away, and then I could come back and feel reset, rejuvenated, you know, be able to be a good father again, a good partner, a good work colleague, you know, all of that sort of thing. So you don't need to be in a you know, mental health crisis to get value from it. Just that sort of release from the pressure valve and give you the ability to reset and come back was, you know, valuable, extremely valuable for me.
Yeah. And there wasn't a person, you know, we made sure everyone got to the top on that climb. It wasn't a race. I wasn't trying to break records. It was about everyone achieving it. There was a lot of people that had not done anything like it. And, you know, to see their face when they got to the top and how happy it made them was pretty cool. If anyone's listening to this and haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's a pretty cool film. Videographer was a mate of mine, Ned Brannigan, and the way he tells the story is just amazing. He's now doing all the videography for our hunting shows as well, because he's seen firsthand, and he was there every day. He heard every story, and he's seen how impactful it's been, and just wants to carry on and help spread this message as well. So full credits to him on that. That little film won quite a few awards. It's travelled to New Zealand to the Mountain Film Festival quite a bit. It was a pretty awesome thing to be part of, to be fair.
And look, I've no shame in admitting I had a tear in my eye at the end of the movie. It was very inspiring. So well done on that.
And it's only 10 minutes. It's a short, sharp, and that's the way we try to keep rolling with most of our films. Like, you know, it is a a topic that if people go on and on and on and on about, people just flick off. So it's about hitting the punchline, hitting the topic, bang, there's the end. Do something about it, leaving people with a thought message to what can they do. So to speak. So, yeah.
Cool. All right, and so now Mental Hunts is sort of I guess been sort of born from that, didn't it? And
it has, and seen the power of film and vulnerabilities and talking, and having my own passion for hunting, and a mate that's a hunting guide and an awesome videographer. It just made sense to put all that together and keep petitioning what we're doing, but do it louder and get those messages out to people. Like I say, the full answers aren't there yet. We're working on trying to make things better, but anything that's coming out, we're trying to get that information out. We've got stuff coming up of people's stories, their journeys that they've been on, some really important hunting messages for safety as well as mental health, and also going to get some professionals out in their field of psychology or whatever to try and give people some tools on some of these episodes as well. But like I say, everything's going to be based around going out for a hunt and having these conversations, and then mixing it, intermingling it with some really cool trips over time, and get out in some pretty magical spots over the New Zealand country. So
So the mate of yours that's in the first episode that you've released there, the Ginger Ninja.
Sam.
That's Sam, is it?
Sam Manson. Yeah.
So
so he's been guiding for over 10 years now, as a full-time career, and just an awesome all-round bloke. He's had a mate, it was actually his friend that I was talking about earlier, that cost a lot of money to get through the courts and get his license back. So so he understands it firsthand as well. He personally hasn't had any major depressive disorders or anything, but he understands the impact of it, and like I say, he's very passionate about hunting and also telling this message with me. So I'm very lucky to have him on board to come along and share his knowledge on the hunting. We're hoping to put out some hints and tips for hunters, and hopefully try and get some young people into the sport. And there's a shortage of young people hunting, so I'm really trying to boost that a bit too. So I hope to bring out some good hunting tips over time, as well as these important messages, and get them out to the younger crowd as well, because that's where change starts, in the next generation.
Yep, breaking that, like we were saying before, about that cycle. But our fathers, how they were raised, that's how they raise us, and so forth. So it's up to us to break that cycle with our kids and so forth.
All this, they're not allowed to talk about suicide at school and all this crap. It just does my head in. It's like, that's you can't do anything that's going to cause triggers. I mean, shit, I've had suicidal thoughts most of my life. People talking about it didn't make me feel like it. That wasn't the cause of it. That's not how it works. So the only way you're going to educate people around it is to talk about it. It is a real thing. It's we're hiding by not talking about it. Not talking about it, we're creating a stigma.
That's right.
We're doing more about gender equality than we are about anything else. And I guarantee there's a lot of mental health issues getting caused from confusion there too. So I think we need to take a step back and look at the mental health education around younger people and older people. So but hopefully with all these films we get out, and hopefully they start to get bigger audience. It's like I say, it's very early days, but far out we're pretty overwhelmed with the support we got, more from the top end. Government side are listening and talking and collaborating and wanting to hear what's going on. So it's really positive. We just need to hear the general public story come out more, and get people talking and actually actioning change rather than typing on their computer, so to speak.
And the so the next video, I guess, was the hunt that you did then with the two representatives from the Firearm Safety Authority.
So that was just going to be a hunting episode on its own originally, and a few conversations. But the more we got there, I said, we can't fit all this into a hunting episode. So we ended up doing the podcast on the side, just sat down with them for an hour and I had a whole heap of questions that I already knew the answer to, but I knew needed to get those answers for people. So we did it that way around, and then we just did the hunting episode on its own. It wasn't as much conversation around mental health in that hunting episode because we didn't need to, because a lot of the questions are answered in that podcast. But over time, we're going to have, I guess what I'd call it is campfire chat, or talk in the hut, or when we're out in the hill glassing, we're going to have more conversations with people and get some more information about different things and hear people's stories of what they've been through and how they've managed it in their own way, because what worked for me may not work for you. What worked for them might work for you, so hopefully we can get people's own journeys out of what they've been through. And also we've got all sorts of things coming up. I've probably got 5 years worth of content in my mind and financially probably about 2 episodes ready to go at the moment. But get this charity status up, hopefully get a bit of support behind us, whether it be from government or personal organisations that want to back and support what we're trying to achieve. And we'll be away. So I ain't going to stop otherwise anyway. So just got to make it work.
And the young lady that you took on the hunt there, Kendra,
yes.
So she'd never been hunting before.
No, very minimal. A little bit with other people on a family farm or something, she said, when she was younger. But no, this was her first hunt. So it was really, really cool for her to get out of her office in Wellington, come up. She is a huge support of what we're doing and is a huge support of trying to fix the problem. Unfortunately, everyone blames the Firearm Safety Authority, but they have just the regulators. They've been told by the government what to do. So unfortunately, I've got them on our side and they're working, but they're the ones that are going to help change. But so for Kendra to come down and Mike to come down, who's actually her boss, and hugely support what we're trying to achieve and try and understand what we're doing. Like, she walked away from that hunt just going, this, I totally get why people come out here. I totally understand. And like I say on the film, now she can see why we go hunting. And when she's sitting in her office and she gets those phone calls from people or notifications, and she rings someone, and she can paint a better picture of what's going on, hence why we brought her out. Well, we've actually got her coming back at the end of next month to do some more filming and answer some more frequently asked questions that we've been getting, and put some more content out, just shorts, and try and get some more answers out to people. So they're just really keen to do more in this space, so which is awesome. This is what we need at a government level, making change. It's good.
Well, that sort of answers the next 2 questions I had. I was curious as to how difficult it was to get somebody from the FSA to uptake on the invitation, and then how they reacted to it. But it sounds really positive, like right from the start.
Really good. When I finally got on the phone and found Kendra, because I'd spent months and months and months making phone calls to government, to MPs, to different people, and to mental health navigators, and no one knew a bloody thing. No one knew what was going on. They didn't understand what I was even talking about, half of them. Finally, one day I got her put onto her, and the lady I spoke to said, I'll get her to ring you back. She'd actually only had her job in the Firearm Safety Authority for 2 weeks, because it's still growing and it was only just evolving. And she's been on top of this ever since that day, and it's been amazing. And I can see bigger things happening with those guys, because they're where the answers are. I don't have the answers. They got the answers, and they're helping us tell it to everybody else, because people are avoiding wanting to talk to them. They think they're the bad people. They're just the regulators, just like the road transport agency. They're the regulators. Unfortunately, at the moment, it's still run under the police arm. It is under a police banner, but it sounds like, and I don't know yet, but it sounds like they might be getting pulled away to be their own regulator. They won't be under the police soon. But it's 100% better than what it was. I mean, there's a lot of people jumping up about different things with the Firearm Safety Authority and the registrar, and semi-automatics being banned and all that shit. Whatever, it is what it is. Register your guns. Who cares? Sorry, but for me, this is the most important thing. This is, if it hasn't already, it's going to kill people if it doesn't get better. Not the guns, the issue.
That's right.
People are going to get really sick if if this barrier stays the way it is.
Yeah.
So, and this is a company that's really pushing to try and see more younger people get into the sport. So they're not anti-guns. They're not trying to take our guns off us for everything. They actually want people to get in. They're just trying to keep the community safe. You got to have a regulator. Could you imagine if we didn't? We'd be like bloody America. We'd have shit going on left, right, and centre.
Well, it's a high risk item and a high risk activity, so there's got to be some controls and measures in place.
Yeah,
whether you agree with them or not, and guarantee you won't agree with everything that they do. Nothing's perfect, is there? There's no such thing as a perfect system. But yeah, if we can work within the boundaries, and maybe if like you're doing, because I can see a lot of parallels between Australia and New Zealand in terms of where you've come from and where you're going to, and if we could work with the government to adapt the legislation to take more of a common sense approach to the issues, rather than a knee jerk reaction and ban it and outlaw it and seize it and destroy it, then we can move towards a safer environment for everyone, because like we've said, it's not a firearm issue, it's a mental health issue. Firearms are just a tool that are being used in that problem, whether it's a vehicle, alcohol, drugs, ropes, all of that. It's coming up with a middle of the road sort of approach to it, that is going to try and keep as many people happy and as safe as possible. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, totally agree. And like we say, there's got to be rules. There's got to be laws. But yeah, we just got to find that middle ground, like you say.
Yeah. No, well, look, it's all really encouraging, and I mean, Australia's, we've got all the states, so our weapons licensing laws are run by the individual states, and that we don't have a national firearm law or national firearm authority or anything like that. I know there was a push to it, and there's still sort of talk about that perhaps happening, but at the moment the states control it. So where I'm in Queensland, for example, it's still run, weapons licensing here is an arm of the police. And it's run majority by civilians, and basically they're not being critical of them, but basically they're just data entry clerks. They get paperwork, they put it in the computer, and so forth, and decisions are made that based around the legislation, which is perhaps not really well written. So I know there's organisations over here that are sort of working in various streams to get legislation changed and updated, and a bit more of a common sense approach to it. So given
it'd be a hard one, and take my hat off to them and full credit to them, because I wouldn't want to be in that position, because you're never going to please everyone. You're always going to be haters, and there's someone's going to say it's not good enough. So it's a hard one, and in the situation we're dealing with, it is a very delicate situation in every way. So it's finding that balance, like you say, and approaching it properly. And I feel like we've been very lucky, and I think I've been very patient in how I've gone about it, and it's paid off, rather than having my own knee-jerk reaction and hate the government, hate the world, hate the anti-gun people. And it's become, I'm working with them, and I hope it stays that way. We are our own self, we are our own voice, but I can't make the change, they can. And we need to keep them close, and we need to work with them to help every Kiwi stay alive. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's what they're trying to achieve too. That's why these legislations are there. It's just, it has been stuffed up by the previous government, and we are very lucky here at the moment with the new government that we've got our first ever Minister for Fish and Game. So we have got someone working in the area of the hunting community and the fishing community and everything. So it's really comforting, I suppose. It's a massive livelihood for a lot of New Zealanders. It's a big revenue for the country, especially the guided hunts. It brings a lot of money into the country.
Yeah. Oh, the hunting related tourism is huge over there.
Absolutely, and it's big money spending, and it's a massive part of the financials of the country. So it makes no sense to ban everything and take everything from everyone. So we'll keep chugging away and watch this space. Like I say, the website only just went live. We've got so much coming up. We've got a lot of ideas. We're just going to slowly evolve and chip away at it and hopefully get some positive change in this area. So
yeah. Well, yeah, mate, Glenn, all the best with it, mate. It's like I said, it's really encouraging, and I guess it sort of gives me hope that we can do follow a similar sort of path over here and affect some meaningful change. But definitely the work you're doing in helping people with their mental health is, for me personally, very much appreciated, and I know it's obviously evidenced by your following as well. So. Yeah, congratulations.
No, I appreciate you having me on to help spread that message. Every little bit helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
change isn't made with one big thing; it's made with lots and lots and lots of little changes, and that's how change is going to happen.
Yeah,
ain't going to happen overnight, but So thank you.
No. All right. So, what's the people want to find you, want to discover more, touch base with you? What are the best ways to reach out, find you, and so forth?
So the website, as it's new, it's hard to Google search, but if you just type in mental hunts with an s.co.nz, that'll take you straight to the website. You can get through the links on our Instagram page, Mental Hunts, and also Facebook is sort of the three main tiers of contact for us at the moment. So, and obviously the YouTube channel, which is Mental Hunts as well. So,
cool. All right. Well, there's some good content on there already, like I've mentioned. So I highly encourage everybody to go and give it a watch and a thumbs up and subscribe. Follow you along on Insta or Facebook. Certainly. Be interested to see what the next stage is for you.
Working on it right now. Really cool message coming out of the next one. It'll put a tear in everyone's eye, I think.
All right. All right, looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Hey, thank you for listening in. If you'd like to contact me for a chat, pass on any feedback, or have some ideas for future podcasts, please reach out to me on Instagram at Australian_hunting_backcountry or email australian.hunting.backcountry@outlook.com.au. For now though, please look after yourselves and your mates.